When the equation's in this kind of format, this is actually the equation of a circle, if you remember that, but you don't need to remember that. I'm going to go ahead and FOIL everything out. So when I FOIL out x minus 1 and x minus 1, and if you have to do it off to the side, please do. But I can actually do it without any. When you FOIL that, you get that. Is everybody okay with me doing it that way? When you FOIL the other one, you get this.
Wait, how do you do it from just like that?
If you want to do it off to the side, just do x minus 1 times x minus 1. X times x is x squared minus 1x minus 1x plus 1, and this turns into minus 2x. So this is equal to 10, and I now go to my polar equations and look at what I can convert. So if I subtract 1 and 9 from both sides, this ends up being a 0. Do you understand that? So I get x squared minus 2x plus y squared minus 6y equals a big fat 0. Then if you look at your formula sheet, you have that r equals the square root of x squared plus y squared. You everybody see that?
Yeah.
But if I square both sides, I get that r squared equals x squared plus y squared. And I've got an x squared and a y squared here, so I'm going to just say that that's equal to r squared. So I started this equation with x's and y's. The rectangular equations have x's and y's. The polar equations have r's and thetas. Got it? So my answer, when I'm converting, have to have r's and thetas in it. And if I start with r's and thetas, my answer has to have x's and y's in it. Everybody get that?
So if you start with x and y, you get r.
So now I know that x is equal to r cosine of theta, and y is equal to r sine of theta. So the format that I want the equation in is I want to leave the r alone. So I have r squared equals 2r cosine of theta plus 6r sine of theta. I just move them to the other side of the equation. All right, so it's still not r equal. So if I divide everything by r, I get that r equals 2 cosine of theta plus 6 sine of theta. And now I have an r equals. I have all the x's and y's are gone, and that's my answer. So that's type A. All the A's are going to be done in the same format. So this is a type B. So all the B's are going to be done pretty much the same way. Well, I've got an x and y again, and I've got to convert them to r's and thetas. So I know that x is r cosine of theta, right off your formula sheet. And y is r sine of theta, so y squared is r squared sine squared of theta. So now I'm going to leave the r squared pretty much alone, and I'm going to say that r 4r cosine of theta equals r squared sine squared of theta. And if I want to leave the r squared alone, I'm going to divide by sine squared of theta. Take your time, and then you won't make any silly mistakes. So now I've got the r all by itself, r squared all by itself. So now, if I divide both sides by r, that r goes away, and there's just an r left over there, and these r's go away. So now I have that r equals 4 cosine of theta over sine squared of theta. And look at this as r equals 4 cosine of theta over sine of theta times sine of theta. So what is cosine over sine on your trig thing? Cotangent. And what is 1 over sine on your thing? Cosecant. So this is your cleaned up best answer. So these, you know that r is just r right now. We're going to leave that alone. Equals 2 times sine of theta over cosine of theta times 1 over cosine of theta. All right, so now I'm going to clean this up a little bit so you can see it better. And because I'm going backwards, so I'm making it more compressed. So I'm going to put this over 1, and I'm going to cross multiply. And I get that. Look at your formula sheet. R cosine of theta equals x. Well, but I have 2 cosines and 1 r. Do you see how I only have 1 r on the left and 2 cosines? So in order for me to make that an x squared, 2 x's, I've got to add a 2 here. So I'm going to do that. But then I have to add an r over here. You can't do one thing to the one side of the equation and not do it to the other side of the equation. So technically, this is r cosine of theta times r cosine of theta. There's 2 of them. So this is x squared. And this is 2 times y, because r sine of theta is y. Sine of theta is an y. You need an r. So I added an r to both sides. And I need to leave the y alone. And so y equals x squared over 2. So that was the C type. Next one is the D. Everybody ready?
We're doing number.
Okay, so we're doing number 8, and number 8 is the type D. So I see that I can't convert this to an x because it's missing an r, and I can't convert that to a y because it's missing an r. So I'm going to multiply everything by r and add an r in here. And now I have r squared equals 2x plus 2y plus 6y. And I know r squared is x squared plus y squared. So I have x squared plus y squared equals 2x plus 6y. Now technically, that is all in x's and y's, but they want it in a different format. They want it in the format of type A. If you go back to the very first one, they want it in that format. In order to get that format, we have to complete the square and do plus box, okay? So I'm going to put the x's together and put a plus box here. And then I'm going to put the y's together and put a plus box here. And since I moved the 2x and the 6y to the left side, that's equal to 0, but I have to add the plus box and the plus box. So this isn't too horrible. It's just you might not remember what to do.
The frick is a plus?
When you're completing the square, you take this middle number here, you divide it in 2, and you square it.
Wait, I gotta write this.
So negative 2
Wait, hold on.
divided by 2 and squared is a 1. Negative 6 divided by 2 squared is a 9. So when we complete the square, we added 1 and 9 to the left side. We got to add 1 and 9 to the right side. And now we factor this first guy. And it's really easy to factor, because what completing the square does is it makes a perfect square trinomial. So it's x, because x squared. The square root of x squared is x. What is the square root of 1? Is 1, and this sign right here. So if it's a plus there, it's a plus. If it's a minus, it's a minus. Plus, here, square root of y squared is y. Square root of 9 is 3, and this sign right here, squared. And then you just add the guys on the right, and that is your final answer. So you're factoring. What times what is x? What times what is 1 and added together is negative 2? Negative 1 and negative 1. What times what is 9 and added together is negative 6? You can do your little cross that you used to do. Negative 3 and negative 3. Completing the square is finding this number in the box that makes that a perfect square trinomial. And since you're adding it to the left and to the right, you're not changing the value, you're just changing the look.